Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. Hello everyone, welcome to Dice Commando and the Commando Cast. I am Andrew with you here as always, here with Agent of Zion. So the Redemption release it's on its way. Set 12 of Star Wars Destiny by the Renewed Hope Committee is on its way on January 29th. So as that set approaches, that means that the Faltering Allegiances meta is sunsetting. So we're here today with AoZ, who was lead designer of Faltering Allegiances, kind of for a retrospective.
Hey, Andrew, got a question for you, buddy.
What's that?
Isn't it kind of nice to have a meta that rotates in a timely manner?
I don't know. I haven't seen one happen yet. Oh wait, yes it is. It's happening next week.
Oh man, I mean it's a lot of work to make it happen, but I think it's going to be well worth the effort. So sunsetting Faltering Allegiances for me is not a sad moment. It's actually really proud to be able to give it its time in the sun, move on to the next thing. Some things are going to carry over, some things are going to get replaced, and it's a card game that is still alive, and it feels alive when you do that.
Yes, it is. It is very much alive. So again, everyone, this is Agent of Zion. He was the lead designer for Faltering Allegiances, still very much involved with a Renewed Hope committee. And basically today we're here for a retrospective on Faltering Allegiances. So basically I'm going to turn it over to you, AoZ. So what went well, what didn't, what did you learn?
What didn't I learn? Okay, it's really easy for me because I can be naturally negative. It's easy for me to point at the failure points. Terra and Vader, that didn't get a full vetting in the way that it should have before it left playtesting and hit public. And by the time it was public and it has won basically every major event, it's been absolutely dominant. More dominant than I'm comfortable with looking back on it. And I think it's because we did too much with Terran. You look at him, he's got pushed health, he's got a good die, he's got an after activate ability and a power action. Like that's too much. I could have reined that in. We could have thought a little harder about that, got the essence of him, and less is more sometimes. And I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. And it's something I've been pushing to our other designers and lead designers moving forward. What worked really well, I'm super happy where Detect ended up. That was a huge stress point of mine, especially revealing the first Detect cards here on your show. I was really concerned all the way through, and they ended up in a great spot, in my opinion, where they weren't dominant, but they were certainly irritating to play against, especially Jin. They scratched a control itch in that manner, and it's expandable. Nothing's locked down. We didn't go through the entire design space of Detect, so we can keep adding a little more to it. We can keep approaching it in different ways in future sets, and I'm thrilled that happened.
Oh, that's good. I mean, yeah, that was the call from some, of course, when they first saw Detect, was it's a broken mechanic. And I mean, we didn't see Detect, at least from what I saw, we didn't see Detect in a very dominant position. And I think that's the better way to release a new mechanic. So cheers there.
We definitely nailed. I think we absolutely nailed the how do I want to term it? The viability of certain mono-colored combinations, especially yellow villain, which really rides on Bala. It rides on, that's another detect card, but it rides on Vibro Sword. It rides on resource efficiency, reap, stuff like that. And I haven't run the numbers in the past week and a half or so, but I was tracking that for the longest time, and it was rock solid 50%, 48%, 52%, 50% win rate. And
on yellow villain.
Yep. So Bala Bing or Bala and another yellow villain was really dialed in for an effective win rate for a fun deck that could do things and go places, but didn't dominate the meta, at least not as much as Terran Vader did.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Terran Vader, I think, was a kind of a perfect storm, if you will, because it blue villain after rotation ended up having a significant amount of the removal, right? I mean, it had the best access to generic removal, and then with the die flipping that it had with Salt Flats and Terran himself, you had control die flipping, and that, I mean, I personally think that's where it was. And then of course you had United We Stand kind of got dropped on y'all's lap. What was that, about a month and change before the release ish?
Something like that.
Maybe it was more than that.
I can't remember the exact timing of when Transformations released to public.
Okay. Okay, so the last one was not the last one, but the next part of it was, what were the learnings you'd have? So what, basically when you gave your pass down to Elrathian for set 12, when you went out and bought him that virtual beer, what was the chat?
Get it. Get your vision statement done up front. Don't think about cards. Try not to think about cards. Try not to design cards or mechanics or anything until you know what your goal is. We discovered what the goal for Faltering Allegiances ended up being, and it was vaguely defined when we started the effort, but it wasn't nailed down until we had gone through the process. And I've said it before, but we threw out dozens of cards, and that's a lot of effort. And some of them were play tested. Some of them were really tough to let go of because of how much time we had invested in them. But by getting a vision designed up front, by working with who we plan to have leading the next set. So Elrathian's been interfacing with me as the previous set lead. He's interfacing with the future set lead to get us all on board with a unified vision for this set so it fits in well. And that is something I didn't do a spectacular job with Faltering Allegiances. And so I said, we got to nail it down. We got to figure this out before we start making moves. And we definitely learned from that. That's the big one.
Okay.
We learned, I learned that, thinking a card does something is not the truth unless you word it properly. There was a very rocky start with some quick fire erratas to make card text match intent. And so we're doing a really good job right now, or at least a much better job of getting that nailed down. So we're not kind of like hanging our ass in the wind and looking like we don't know what we're doing. So that's important. And it's just communication. Making sure everybody involved in the effort has room to talk, feels like their voice is valued, and is measurably impacting the set. It's bonkers how much we've expanded the number of people who see, touch, play with these cards before they go public at this point.
Okay, I mean that's an so how much has your playtesting and or playtesting bans or whatever you call them increased?
If I guess like the only reasonable way to try to put a metric on it is in man hours, and it's really hard to estimate how many man hours we spent on Faltering Allegiances. but Redemption is clocking in at about, I would say triple the amount of man hours spent, especially in playtesting.
But I mean, to be clear on the Faltering Allegiances stuff, you guys were developing template. I mean, you guys were doing more. There was a lot more going on than just that, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there was tons of the foundational work, the baseline work that we were going through at the same time, and it's not like we didn't play with the cards. I don't want to give that impression either. But not having to do that foundational work, not having to figure out how to take control of a TTS mod, how to do dice stickers, how to do art, how to do playtesting files in a way that's really, really fast, how to create card templates, all this stuff. We've got the process down. The process is solid. So all of that time can now go toward playtesting, and it's paying dividends. So huge learning point. Happy to do it. If I can pass that down, it's amazing. We just got to keep the process going, and so we can put the effort where it needs to be.
Okay, so I've got a couple additional questions for you. Then one of them actually we'll hit this one first, even though it's out of order. It was about Terran. So, and I think you addressed it a little bit. So I know one of the things that had me worried about Terran wasn't him himself. Like, I actually think that Terran at 14 is fine. I think the thing that worried me about him was the fact that he had an after you activate and a power action, and I didn't. I'm worried about not that on him, but what that might mean for the future.
Yeah, so that was another point of widespread criticism and good criticism. We were a little bit over designy in some cases with Faltering Allegiances, and we tried to keep that in mind. It's hard for me to promise anything. Obviously I know what's in Redemption, and I feel like even in Redemption, even when the cards are very wordy, things make a lot more sense. We did a good job there of making intent clear and keeping edge cases to a minimum. So, read the card, do the card. Even though there might be a lot of text on it, it's read the card, do the card. And then this was something that we were constantly butting heads on. It's like, no, simplify. No, this card does too much. Yes, I know it's your favorite character, man. I know it's your favorite character. I know you want it to be a good card, but no, simplify. Get rid of half of it. Simplify. Figure out the essence of it. Capture the essence. Put that on the card. Put the other stuff on some other card somewhere else. It's a good idea, man. It's a good idea. Keep it in your back pocket, but you can't put it all on this card. And then I would point to Terran.
Yeah, no, I think that's healthy. I mean, I think there's a lot of other games out there, cough magic, that are suffering from the everything does everything problem right now. So keep it simple. I like that design philosophy. All right, so now you can choose to not answer this if you want, based on your needs. However, Wild Horizons has been leaked. Now, one of the things that you guys had you spoke to it last time you were on this channel, was you guys had to design around Wild Horizons. Now that has been leaked, is there any sense of vindication or whatever now that everybody can see what you were having to deal with?
I am going to go. I'm going to go a little bit out of the limb. Because it's really hard to serve me here in Guam. All right, everybody knows the leak is the leak. All right, nobody goes through that much effort to fake something. So that was a leaked product file that was out there. I think people are seeing, where certain cards from Faltering Allegiances would have slotted in. I think they're seeing, some efforts that were made to bring things up to par, deal with power level here, tweak what's in front of people there, and make it all fit cohesively. We'll never know exactly how good of a job we did with that, which I'm somewhat sad for. I'm really sad that we don't get Wild Horizons. I am. I think that obviously more cards is fun, and that set had a lot of really out there ideas that would have been really entertaining and a lot of fun to play with. Some of them are incredibly obvious, very obvious design space. Like, oh, what about a new color? Oh, what about characters with more than 2-point costs? Oh, what if an event rolled a die? That's really obvious design space. But there's a lot of non-obvious design space that I'm sad that, we can't just put it in the game,
Mm-hmm.
That's basically plagiarism. That's very disrespectful to the work that the FFG design team did. It's probably flatly illegal. So we're staying away from that. And it's disappointing. I wasn't sad to see it leak. I didn't do it, but I wasn't sad to see it leak. I'm glad at least there's some recognition there out there in the community for the effort that was put into that set. And we can't make it standard. We're not going to add it to ARH. It's just not something we can do. It's not something we're capable of doing legally or morally. But there's going to be people out there who print and play with it. And if they want to, take the Wild Horizons Inquisitor cards and add them to ARH Inquisitor cards, I won't be sad.
Yeah, but they'll have to do that on their own, right? So.
Yeah, we can't make it legal, and I can't tell you that it's okay. It's stolen intellectual property. It just is what it is.
Yep, absolutely true. I don't think many reasonable people out there expect it to show up in any sort of ARH standard for the reasons you mentioned. I had personally gone on. I'd had a cast about it earlier, where there's some of the mechanics in there, like the one that recycles things from the graveyard. Magic's been doing that for 20 years. That's not a new mechanic, right? We could definitely see something like that potentially in the future. The 3-die thing, all sorts of stuff that I am hoping does see light of day in ARH in some fashion, but obviously not the card itself, right? So,
it's hard to paint a strict definition of it, but when something's obvious design space. Are we going to have new die sides in Destiny moving forward? Yes. I'll tell you that right now. Yes, eventually. Might not be in Redemption, might not be the next set, but it might. It depends on when we decide, it's a good time, when it fits in with the vision, when it is needed or fun or adds more than it detracts. Because you always got to worry about added complexity. But if we can get it nailed down, we can make it happen.
Well, that's cool. We'll look for new mechanics like that in the future, and when we have 8 colors down the line with 20 dice sides. No, and actually, so this is totally off topic.
You just gave me a heart attack, man. Oh my gosh.
So I know this is off topic, but we did see one mechanic in that set, which was paying for die side costs with methods other than resources. Mm-hmm. And one thing I had always thought, irrespective of Wild Horizons, was I noticed that the cost of a card still has the resource symbol to it next to it. It doesn't say 1, it says 1 resource. So I've always wondered why we don't have cards that have like 1 indirect or something like that on it.
I don't. So that's an idea that I've had, and it's not something I've actually brought up to the design team, because I don't think that we've exhausted the design space in paying for cards with resources.
Oh, sure.
And it's super easy to approach when you don't have to consider, what if I'm paying for this with health? And to take a poke at Magic again, if you can draw cards by paying with health, that's pretty good. It's hard to balance that. It's hard to balance something when you dip out of the norm. And so, like a new die side, like a new card type, like a new color or faction, that would have to be something we approach with utmost caution. Mm-hmm. And if we were to do it, I could say that you'll probably know we're thinking hard about it if you start seeing like a card that says, instead of paying for this with resources, you can get a discount by dealing yourself some indirect. If you start seeing stuff like that, kind of testing the waters. trying to see how those cards play out before we start going full throat into that territory.
All right, so I'm quoting you here. Delve 2 is on the way. No.
My God, man, another heart attack. Eight colors plus delve, balance it.
So, one thing I was bummed about Faltering Allegiances was that I only saw double Haxian brood droids played once. I personally felt there was a lot of stuff in Faltering Allegiances that was really good that never saw play. Do you think that, given the now environment of Star Wars Destiny, that casual-esque stuff like that, does it still have a place?
Absolutely. I mean, the continued coronavirus crisis is not helping. But when people play at kitchen table, when people set up a private room on Tabletop Simulator and play with their friend that's across the country, we don't have the metric on what we can't see, but we know people are playing with them.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten messages, hey, this was really cool. This will never win anything, but I think this is a lot of fun. And for every one person who takes the time out to send a message like that, even if it's a public post in a Discord channel saying, hey, this is really janky, but man, is it cool. There's 10 more people who are doing it, just not posting. And so it has a place. We're going to continue to meet the needs as best we can for those people.
Okay. I mean, that makes me feel really good. That makes me feel really good that there's going to be continued intentional design space for pseudo competitive. I don't know what the right word is, but that makes me really happy. So thank you.
My favorite deck that I've played throughout Redemption playtesting is totally non-competitive. It's a trip, and I'm excited to be able to play it with people in public. And it'll never win a tournament, guaranteed, but it's my favorite. So if you take a competitive player like me, like that's you got me playing something that I can't win, it's good.
All right, last question I have for you, then we can turn over the floor back to you. So Rathian has gone. Rathian, remember, just reminding everybody, the lead designer of Redemption, which is due out here shortly. He has gone on, I think it was Diggity Destiny podcast that I was listening to, and in that, it was a very, very good podcast. I recommend people go check it out. In that, there was some discussion around power level and how they're stepping it up for this next set. So how do you view because basically I'm very much paraphrasing here, so please excuse me, Rathian. But they were basically saying that there was some stuff like Terra and Vader dominated the meta, and they wanted to make sure that one thing that was powerful wasn't dominating the meta. And their design space approach to doing that was to make sure that there was a lot of different things that could play together, and out of that comes a power level raise, right? So how do you how does that change? How does that design space change? How does that reflect on Faltering Allegiances? And how does that change your guys' design space going forward?
So as the advocate for Faltering Allegiances, I was really involved in making sure that it's a power creep, not a power cliff. It would not be beneficial for anyone if Redemption came out and all of a sudden, out of the 60 Faltering Allegiances cards that were played on a semi-regular basis, now only 10 are. That would not be good. So we made sure that the stuff that is power creeping is doing so in a way that makes sense, and it's not a power cliff. Faltering Allegiances, in that regard, served its purpose really, really well in triggering a rotation, dumping out all these old cards, and now something is, quote unquote overpowered or quote unquote broken. In this context, rather than needing to even be competitive, it had to be competitive against Vader's Fist. So we were able to reset it. We were able to ratchet it back down, especially in the mitigation space across the board with Faltering Allegiances. And that gives so much more room to move forward with our future sets to expand back up into all of that breathing room that we opened up. And that's really good. To speak specifically, one of the things that we did was look at, character costs. If let's say I'm advocating very strongly for a 16-point character that sees play now, do we need another 16-point character in that color faction combo in Redemption? Probably not. Maybe we make a 14-pointer to replace the old partner. So we got a new partner played with a relatively new partner, and now we're kind of combining both of those things together. It didn't work like that in every single instance. It's not a jigsaw puzzle in that way. But if you can wrap your mind around that kind of an approach, there was a lot of poking and prodding at the edges, and some things are clear jump in power level, and that's fine. But it's not going from Awakenings to Spirit or Rebellion. I think it's more going from Spirit Rebellion to Empire at War. Empire at War to Legacies, something a little more gradual instead of the huge jump.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's just I was just curious how that. I mean, I'm guessing the learnings from FA fed into decisions for Redemption. I mean, otherwise, what are you doing here, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just to be exceedingly clear, like Elrathan is the set lead. He's making calls. He's pushing his team, and they made a set, and it's their set. But he did not do so without input. I was not sitting in a corner. Oh darn it! If only old mean Elrathan would listen to me, he'd learn. No, he was very receptive. He didn't always take everything I said. He didn't always, co-sign something just because I said it, but he always took it on board. And I think the set's better for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was told that they sent you to a deserted island all by yourself. So
that was another group of people.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. Well, I think that's all I have for you today. Do you have anything else you want to add before we get out of here? Oh, I do want to, before we do, just want to remind everybody that release weekend is coming, and with that comes the release weekend tournament. So if you are interested in playing in that, what do we have, AoZ? Do we have like 110 people for the Faltering Allegiances, somewhere in that range?
I think it was 104. My time zone is such that I wasn't able to participate, and I was working that day. But I think it was 104, 106, something like that.
Okay, so right around 100 once you add in the inevitable no-shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, we're looking at 100 person, or I know the goal is 100 plus, and the goals to beat last time, so 100 plus for the Redemption release tournament. You can go check them out, of course. Well, actually, I'll just make it easy, and I'll put a link in the description of the video to the ttt.to sign up. But it was a great time. They gave everybody free promos, and I don't know if that's what they're doing this time, but either way, it'll be a good time. You can go win some pride. So make sure you go check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Closing thoughts. If we want to call it the closing thought for my time with Faltering Allegiances, specifically as the set, is that I'm insanely grateful to the community. So there was tons of amazing feedback that we got, amazing things that people said, and a lot of time and effort put in on people who aren't going to be super flashy or get up in front of a camera and a microphone and say their piece. But it was essential because they took the time to write something down. It made sense. We took it on board. We're running with it. That sense of community is meaningful and impactful, and it really, not only is it helpful for our effort, it gives us motivation. So to everybody who played with Faltering Allegiances, gave it a try, maybe it wasn't for you, but you gave it a try, you gave some feedback, you put in effort on your own time and on your own dime in a lot of cases to play with these cards and to keep this game and community strong. Thank you. Thank you so much. The content creators plugging away. It's really easy to tell someone like me to go pound sand. No, we don't need to support you, or we don't need to give your spoilers out, or we don't need to give you this insanely long interview time on a time that I know is inconvenient to you personally, Andrew, dealing with my time zone. That's community as well, and being able to provide that to the community, to us as the ARH team. It's beyond words. It means the world to me. I hope to be set lead for Set in the future. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But having that title for this set was one of the best and most rewarding things I've done with any game in my life. And it means the world to me that everybody was willing to give me that opportunity. And I hope you found as much value in it as I did.
Well, I think that's well said, and excellent closing thoughts. So with that, we will, because it is midnight my time, we will get out of here. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Agent, and your entire team for getting us through the FA meta. And if nothing else, go Commando.
Go Commando.